Hello, hello, hello. Here we are again. Musings on Mars.
I'm here in the Perseverance crater from where it blew up.
We're here with Bernie Sanders in his mittens. It
I
didn't
just came
take
to drop
long
off
to
my
see
daughters.
that. So yeah, we're going to talk about space today.
Woo!
But first, we want to show off some of the cool products from the Pax Alexius wave that have wound up in the Waldem's warehouse right now, getting ready for the rest of the books to arrive before they go out. We showed these off on an update on Game on Tabletop, which is where all the pledges are being fulfilled. But we can show them off here too. We've got the, let's see, we'll start with, what do you got first? Tokens, I think.
And for
The
those of you geriatric like me, he did not say Walden's as in Walden's books.
right.
Just just making sure you know.
Germany, a place in Germany. Yeah, here are the Victory Point and Weird Point tokens. You can see the little Firebird sort of there's the Victory Point, and the Jump Gate Cross is for the Weird Points. And there's a whole bag for them. These are the special metal ones
I
for
just
those
want the
who
bag.
didn't
Oh, never mind.
back
I
at
want
the
everything.
level that, right, right. For those who didn't back at the level to get these, you'll be able to get some punch versions of these in the GM screen. And but you can also have these as an add-on or get them through the store once they're available. But they're going to be cool to play with these things. And next up, here we go. There's the aluminum metal die. Special big whopping die for rolling. You'd see the jump gate cross there. That's your one position, I believe. For it's always a success. The pancrator is insured, no matter how low your modifier goes. You will succeed with that. And here is the deluxe playmat. We had a number of these for different classes.
They all
This
come with the name Andrew at the bottom, just so you know.
no, none of them do. And this is one of them, but there are like four
Oh, it went
others based
away.
on class. And here you've got a picture of that looks like you've got Giuseppe Alastro there. And gosh, who else is that? That's I think there's a brother battle. I'm not. No, that's an Amalthean. Can't remember who she is at the moment. She's one of the characters. So yeah, those are, and there's more deluxe mats based on your different classes, whether you're going to be a merchant, a priest, or the nobles. And then the GM has his own also. On the GM's mat, he's got space on either side for two headliner NPCs. And you also, if you got the play kit on the pledge, you'll get these in a fold out form. They won't have the
Mats are
deluxe
also
mouth.
useful for eating barbecued hull rat.
There you go. If you're really hungry, like in Texas or something, you're going to want that barbecued whole rat.
Apologies to all our many fans in Austin.
They're
The
all
old
LARPing Malignatius right now down there.
Malignatius just didn't get on the grid.
Nope. So yeah, that's some of the stuff coming in for the Pax Alexius wave. You'll be seeing some shots as more come in. The big books, the slipcases, all that stuff. And so on to space.
Space.
Yeah, we thought we'd talk about space today, and we did that before I even realized the Perseverance was going to land on Mars. So it was very,
But
very
did
good.
it
And also,
really?
yes, did it
Conspiracy theorists
really?
already going crazy.
Yeah, they're shooting it on the Disney backlot where they shoot the Mandalorian.
Except the Disney backlot is now in Georgia. Having been
Well,
there,
actually, where they shoot that big video, what do they call it? They have a special name for that giant wall of video. That's actually out in California, I think.
uh,
It's when they're doing other stuff they're shooting
oh
down
man,
here,
the
but that
coolest
is still out
though
there.
was at the OFS facility here, where they filmed a bunch of shows. They had their giant outside green screen built out of something like 50 tractor trailer backs on top of each other. It was amazing to drive back there and look at it. Just this giant green screen outside that they could shoot in front of.
Cool. So that's where we saw Mars today, huh? Right here in Georgia.
You're all big fans of Perseverance.
The Zaibatsu want us to think we've gone to Mars, but they're covering it up just in case there's any Sotherists among us.
Yep.
Yeah, because I also posted on Facebook earlier a story about Planet 9 or 10 or whatever you want to call it, and how there's something out there that's screwing with the orbits of some of the bigger rocks.
It's a jump gate. We all know it.
Now they think it's the where they have it in terms of AU distant from us is a lot farther than our jump gate. So I theorize that the jump gate's hiding out there, but is going to move closer by the time we hit space fully and get out to the belt and such.
What they discovered in the First Republic after they found the jump gate was that for some reason they still can't explain, it had an untoward gravitational effect on the rest of the planets for its size. So it's not, it doesn't have that much mass despite being huge. It's hollow. You can't exactly put a scale under it to weigh it. But the materials and the like have something about it created an untoward gravitational pull that made it seem as if it was a distant 10th planet.
Right. And it's also very possible that it was kind of in a depowered mode until it was approached. So there was no radiation it was necessarily giving off on the same level as it did once it became active and being used. So there's all sorts of mysteries.
Had it been absorbing light all this time until suddenly the approach?
Who knows?
Unanswered.
It's very possible that a void kraken was parked right in front of it the whole time, and no one can see through that. It absorbs all the light. People
it was just
think
giving
it's a black hole.
A hug like this.
There you go. Wrapped up in tentacles.
One other bit of Fading Suns news is the Astral character sheet is in development, so let's hope we get something good there. And now, should we go on to space?
Sure.
All right. So one of the fun things, so we talked about a lot of game ideas in our last Heretical Musings, but then we realized that almost all of them were ground-based, which is, for a space game, you have lots and lots of other options. So obviously you can have a crew that pretty much lives in the space ship with occasional ground expeditions. And going back to the Perseverance landing today, I was noticing how many people are commenting that finally NASA is beginning to look like Starfleet. Except I'm still waiting for them to authorize miniskirts and go-go boots for the entire staff of NASA. So we'll see when that finally happens.
Somebody, Facebook, Twitter, somewhere a while back was mentioning that, the Army has these balls and the Navy has their balls that go on. And so now, we can have space balls.
Space balls, all right.
Yep. And that's one of the things when you're out in space on these big, giant luxury liners,
Bill, hold on. Space Force is too young. Space Force has no balls.
Not yet. They haven't dropped yet.
No! Zero G! They'll never anyway. I blame all
as I was saying, you can have on your little luxury liners and space stations nobles having their balls, their space balls out in the Fading Suns.
Yeah, so it's very possible to have adventures that are just primarily set in space. Going through the jump gates, dealing with space stations along the way. And there are a lot of great TV shows that show this. Star Trek being really the classic, but obviously a lot of people drawn Firefly comparisons in the past. Certainly have your mix of space campaigns and ground campaigns. Like Bill said, the space liners going between planets.
Yeah. One of the games, one of the stories, dramas that was published a while back in an old book called Into the Dark, written by Brian Campbell. I used to run it at conventions as sort of the introduction to Fading Suns, where you're on a luxury liner and something goes terribly, terribly wrong. So that was always a great way to sort of have, your Avestites and your people from all over, but they're also on a ship where you can't just, get in a car and drive away, or your skimmer kind of stuck. It was always fun.
Right, exactly. And that's one of the best reasons for the space games is players can't just get up and run to another continent. You are in this enclosed setting, alien style, if you want to enjoy that. And the GM can have a great deal more control. I've been noting that there are a lot of merchant marines around the world who apparently haven't set foot on land since the pandemic started. They're already on ships. They weren't allowed to come into shore, and they still haven't been allowed to come into shore. So we think about people living on a boat for a year, but you could certainly have plenty of people who've almost never touched foot on the ground.
Yeah,
considered
prospectors, guilders, and the like.
Prospectors, plenty of reason to have never been on Earth. Now, the idea that the charioteers might have some slaves on their ships who've never seen planets like, now no one would believe that.
No, of course not. They would never do such a thing. Everybody loves the charioteers. They bring candy and all sorts of good stuff. So yeah, a Mordant Crimson comments, I've always had a half idea of doing a murder mystery in a luxury space liner, and of course, it's perfect there. The Murder on the Orient Express.
The Seneschal Guild
classic did it. Idea, yeah. Because the suspects can't leave unless they steal a lifeboat, but even then, it's not as easy in the Fading Suns universe.
So the question then for you, Mordant Crimson, is then do more characters start dying as the mystery continues, or are they just racing against time to find the murderer before the ship lands and everyone escapes? So you've got a lot of different send-ups to go with it.
And it turns out in the end, it was the Hull Rat.
He did in the conservatory with the candlestick.
Hull Rat in the engine room with the flux cache.
Now, so the luxury liners, the gambling ships are always a lot of fun. These give that posh element to it. Then you can have the torn down junk spaceship that the PCs are flying. Of course, it's haunted. Every PC spaceship I've ever known has been haunted at least at some point. One of the fun things about this are the encounters you have out in space. Obviously, at some point you will find some derelict and board it, much to everyone's chagrin, or you'll find a box just floating in space that you'll use your Waldo arm to go out and get, and of course you'll open it.
Everybody's curious. And it's not just space, too, though. There are moon bases. The Xantheep have their moon havens. And some of these moons, even though they've been around a long time, doesn't mean they've been fully explored in their interiors and such. And there could be all sorts of Anunnaki monoliths that were left behind on them, and gargoyles and stuff. They're still waiting to be discovered. There could have been Second Republic secret research stations down there, especially when you're getting out deeper into a solar system to gas giants and moons. Most of those have been largely forgotten about what's going on there, whereas there could be all sorts of secrets from the Second Republic, from the Emperor Wars, when they were doing a lot of their military research to get any kind of advantage whatsoever. A lot of these were hidden on these bases everywhere. For all we know, there could be some bases still out there operating on these things who aren't fully aware that the Emperor Wars are over, and that they're still trying to make their master super golem or whatever crazy weapon they've been working on.
And one thing to remember is that the Second Republic was a republic. That means while there was centralized governments, every little place had its own powers, authority, autonomy, and so forth. So the official Second Republic government didn't necessarily get to explore everything. So even at the height of human knowledge, there was a lot that was still unexplored within human space. So yeah, you've got a lot of these things on the outskirts. We talk about now, we've been searching the heavens for a long time looking for this 10th planet, and we're still finding all kinds of craziness as we look further and further into the solar system. Mm-hmm. That was still true. Yes, the early observers, whenever they would go through a jump gate, were doing scans of the entire system as best they could. But in many of these systems, not everything was found, and that can include some of these older systems for humanity that are still part of their own worlds. And as lost worlds get added, yeah, definitely expect some weird things to be out there for a campaign that's just constantly in space.
Yep.
Now, one of the things to talk about when you're doing just purely space campaigns, hey, call me, welcome on in, is what kind of characters are going to be out there. Now, the guilds have a obvious place in there, not just the charioteers, but and I love the idea of a Reeves reclamation team, the loan collectors. We're constantly flying around in space from one place to another, but that's just me. But you can have prospectors, you can have all sorts of guilders, but then you also have the aliens who find it more, they have more equality in space than they do on ground. Great place for aliens, psychics. No Sotherist in space. There would never be a Sotherist involved in these campaigns.
Of course not, never.
Mind you. But the church will have its place out there as well, because it is through the jump gate that the prophet disappeared. And there are those, especially Hesychast, but maybe some Eschatonics, maybe even some Orthodox, who believe that there is a non-Sother communion to be found through the jump and go through it. They are trying to emulate the prophet's journey as best they can. Yep. So yeah, definitely expect some church members out there. And for nobles on the run, that's the safest place to be.
And for questing knights and imperial cohorts, they got to learn to really work out in space and travel around a lot too. So they've got all sorts of excuses for moving around.
And the questing knights brings up a good point. Someone had asked me about the speeds at which people go through jump gates. One of the questions we often get, so if jump gates are locked on one side, can they be locked on the other side? And theoretically, no, ships can come through even when ships can't go through the other way, but we've got gates that appear to be completely locked. So the official rule is whatever the GM wants. I mean, it depends, is the official rule. So, and then obviously you don't want to come speeding through a jump gate, especially not Byzantium Secundus. You'll be gunned down. On the other hand, if you're a questing knight claiming you've got emergency information for the Emperor's eyes only, you might come barreling through the jump gate. Everything else, you might not get shot right through the jump gate, but you will get intercepted midway through by something pretty heavily armed.
You better. Well, that's the thing actually we should talk about is that jump queue. Most factions simply can't afford to always have something out there monitoring the jump gate. In systems where commerce is very big, like Criticorum or Byzantium Secundus, that obviously they can have pretty regular a force out there to monitor what's coming and going. But it's not necessarily the case that it's 24/7 in other systems. In some of the throne world systems, like where the prince resides, those will be guarded. But like the Lihalan can't necessarily have some ships all the time out on Rampart, even though there's a rebellion going on. But that's part of the problem, because they've got to have so much resources planet side, they can't necessarily always have them outside of that. A lot of these guys are still trying to overcome some of the debts they ran up during the Emperor Wars, building ships furiously and losing ships. So they just don't necessarily have the full fleet complements. So don't assume that every time a players are going to go through the jump gate, they're going to get stopped and searched. A lot of times they can slip right past. But
yeah,
then again,
well, I mean, the church would love to stop and search every ship that comes through, but not really their strength. So you might get hailed, you might not. There might be someone out there who is taking it upon themselves to enforce the Pancreator's will at the jump gate, but might sail through without any sort of issue whatsoever. Now, on Pyre,
watch out there.
Because they don't know how to work the radio, but they know how to work the ship flamers. That's for sure. So, different situation there. And we can accept that the Eschatonics know all anyway when you come into the Pentateuch system.
Yeah, right.
But, yeah, this is modified. This varies from place to place. Now, what regulates the queue at the jump gates more than anything else are the other ships making the jump. So if you cut and they know who you are, you can expect some serious dings on your reputation and maybe on your hull later on.
Right.
So they will find ways to take it out on someone who cuts the line without a very, very good reason.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows the hierarchy, and it's, it's listed, in the universe book, we talk about it, but there's whole things of rank and who gets to go first and so on, and if you go right past that, or even if you hitch a ride on someone else's jump without necessarily asking permission to, you could be causing all sorts of trouble and, most wanted, posters going up for you later on.
Right. So you might, the jump gate reset times because they're in the universe book, but how long you actually sit there really does depend on the queue. I mean, the GM, I mean, the queue. So it might be
Yep.
very quick because, to be honest, at most systems, most of the time there's not a queue.
Right.
When there is, it's usually because there's been a long reset or something weird happened, or for some reason everyone's fleeing the system, and you should find out why. But,
Yeah, the whole thing is whatever's going on the planet is gonna cause flux, the main planet, that is, for whether, forces are actually out there and stuff. You get a relatively peaceful time, sure, they'll send, their one, destroyer or cruiser out there, but, you start having problem within the system, such as pirates or those are rebellion or whatever, they're gonna be drawn closer into the system, so, players can certainly get involved in that, or their factions can, by causing distractions on planet that then allow their reinforcements or their friends or their pirates to slip through the jump gate once ships are drawn back to help defend it for some reason or other.
and that
So
is
the
an old
player,
smuggler's trick when you've got some particularly valuable uh, uh, cargo, is to send that decoy through at full speed, set the alarms off, everyone goes after it, and you slip in next and kind of hide on by in all the commotion that it's caused. So,
yep. Or you
not a
just,
bad.
hire some friends who, are going to cause some sort of trouble on the space lanes out mid system. Just draw them away from you there and then
Yeah,
hide
it is
out
an
in the asteroid
interesting,
belt for a while.
interesting contradiction that, like Bill said, when they're having economic problems inside the system, maybe they can't afford a ship, or maybe they send that dreadnought out there to shake every ship down that's coming through and demand as much money as possible. Same when there's havoc and upheaval. Are they monitoring the gate more closely, or do they not have the strength to monitor it closely? And they send the backups would rather be reading their heretical novels rather than watching who's coming through.
Yeah. Well, another problem you got too, because you do have peacetime, there's a lot of boredom on the military ships and stuff. So sometimes they go looking for malefactors just to keep their crew up and going and maybe to practice some broadsides and stuff. And there's the other problem is too, is their pay is probably much less now. So they need to muck up for it by skimming off people coming in and out and stuff. So you've got all these little corrupt or semi-corrupt crews on these cruisers, destroyers, and such out there who are going to try to make some extra money to make up for the fact they're not making near as much as they used to during war.
And with the big privateer operations shut down, the only way to go to prize court is with a really good reason why you could take a ship, and a good reason that you made up is perfectly fine. Mainly that they were weaker than you, look like smugglers, and here I've got a big prize ship now to sell at the privateer court. So a few
Right.
questions that popped up. Chainsaw Gothic says, fortunately, gamers are fluent in ways to prevent gatekeeping. Arg. Yeah.
Uh,
And Morton Crimson asks, can a ship with a jump key open the gate to another ship to piggyback with them at the same time? Or does every ship that passes through the gate have to have a key?
actually, only one of the ships has to have the key, but you have to be close enough in a formation to it, and that takes some piloting skill. So it's very often it's only going to be charioteers and such, or ships that have those kind of trained guildsfolk. Not necessarily, but yeah, it and they pretty much again have to have an agreement because if you just jump in with them, it's going to cause some dangerous problems. So you have to go into a formation that's pretty planned, but yeah, only one of those ships has to have the key. So that's often what happens is if you've got a merchant ship, a charioteer going through, they might hire their services with their one jump key to a bunch of other small time merchants who can't afford that key or can't afford to hire a charioteer who has a key, and they'll be able to go through the jump gate with that person to get to the next system to sell their wares.
And they play an ancient Holy Terror song called Convoy when they go through.
And as Calmy says, they all do need jump drive. So yeah, you can't have non-jump capable ships go through. They have to have jump drives that create the field around the ship that interacts with the strange, mysterious field in the jump gate that allows them to actually. I mean, if a ship doesn't have a jump drives and gets in one of those formations, they can travel through, but then they'll appear through the other side of the actual jump gate in the same system, whereas everybody else has disappeared and gone on to the system they meant to go to.
Now, of
And
course, saucer dampers only affect that ship. So,
yes, that
who
is
knows
true.
what's going on with other ships coming through in convoy.
Right.
So, do have to watch all that. Watch out for that as well. But back into space. So we've talked about some of the places in space, the asteroids that are being mined, those hidden bases. In the Noble Armada computer game, we list some of them that you'll find out there. One of the ones that I liked that we added was listening posts. The main power in the Noble Armada game was you'd find out how many other ships were in the system you had to deal with, and generally what houses they were from. But these do exist out there, these observatories for the generally for the houses, sometimes for the guild, because information still is power. So if you're coming through and you think you're untracked, you might still be tracked by these that are then relaying the information on through to the main planet. Say X ship has come through, or you might come through hidden, the idea of the cloaked ships and the like. So,
and there will be info in an upcoming thing on not only a lot of civilian ships, but some rules on stealth ships too. So the various ways they can.
We do have, in fact, I have Emperor of the Fading Suns up on my other computer, the Raider stealth ship. Yea, I adjure all righteous sons and daughters. Let's get the microphone close to this one. I adjure all righteous sons and daughters of Earth to take up the crusade against the minions of the guilds, those infidels who would now go so far as to war with Mother Church. It was their handiwork which smote the church vessel Zebulon's flame upon its emergence from the jump gate of Pentateuch. Yeah, we got some serious crazy going on here. The last transmission from the beleaguered ship spoke of pods of small, swift warplanes appearing sorcerously from the vacuum to strafe fire and rockets upon the defenseless craft, only to vanish again when their stings were launched. So the League would go to war with the Church over the payment of a tariff. I call upon the children of the Pancreator to give them a tariff of brimstone and blood. Sermon of Patriarch Akamoti. Yep, that old discontinuity field generator. Gets you that. So, Raider stealth ships. Fun stuff.
Yep. Yeah, stealth ships are a lot of fun.
Have a spaceship with one of those, and people find out, they're going to be looking for you. So there's all kinds of fun things you can have on your ship. It'll get you all sorts of attention. So,
yep.
Be ready for those. And that's the other thing. I mean, a ship is an incredibly valuable thing. You're looking for better ones, and people who don't have one as good as yours are definitely looking for reasons to take your own.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes for a fun, hunted sort of adventure. And it's really interesting, the sort of campaigns you can have. I've always loved the idea of a traveling Inquisitor. Now, if that's my old brother Battle Inquisitor, that's a whole nother story. But crew of holy Avengers going planet to planet to root out evil wherever it may be is always a fun traveling campaign, and the things they can find in space are a special pleasure.
Yep. And of course, one of the classic ones is pirates. Anybody who backed Pax Alexius will have gotten the, well, it's not everybody, but most people, I think who got the digital levels, would have gotten the Fakers and Freebooters PDF adventure that involves pirates. Starts you out on Hargard and then takes you out into the stars and the asteroid field to deal with that big pirate band.
Yar, Chainsaw Gothic. Well, let's talk about the worst of the pirates. Those Voldruk! Wait, no, they're part of the Empire now. But this part of the reason I think this is interesting for the new version of Fading Suns is the addition of Voldrach. And there certainly were a lot of Voldrach who preferred living in space and raiding to living on planet side and not raiding. So this brings up a whole new contingent to join the classic mix of characters. And this is, we've got Hargard where you'll have Voldrach and known worlders mixing, but I love the idea of a new spaceship mix of Voldrach and known worlders. Great opportunity for culture clash in an enclosed environment. And theoretically, this could be the group who are trying to stamp out those rogue Voldrach who are still raiding in the Hargard system. And it needs a mix of both groups to deal with them. Because some of them still have some powerful backers, so you can't just shoot everybody. So this is one of my favorite campaign ideas that I've been toying with. I haven't played it yet, but that idea of that mixed group of Voldrach and known worlders in space. Morton Crimson. Why are pirates called pirates? Just because they are. You and Chainsaw Gothic are both in timeout. Are both in the jump gate lock. Chainsaw Gothic says, the last chance for my troop to sing sea shanties, space shanties. Someone has to make space shanties.
They're big again.
Now, of course, you always have the problem when you have a Ganok on the crew of a very tiny spaceship. How do you deal with that, Bill?
Well, it's both lucky and not. Depends on how much of a sense of humor you have. They tend to be good engineers, especially when it's a tiny ship and people have trouble fitting in those really tight passages. But they can do that just fine. Just, be ready to, test your food before you fully eat it and, look for that whoopee cushion before you sit down and all that stuff.
So Chainsaw Gothic says we need some Fading Sun space shanties about Hull Rat Bill the charioteer.
Need shanties about Ganok. The problem with Ganok is they get bored on long journeys, which is why they're looking for pranks all the time. They're always looking for something to do.
Barnacle Bill the Ganok, I like it.
Also, the Atiri keeps sitting. Chainsaw Gothic says the Atiri keeps sitting on the captain's shoulder. Now, if it's one of the more songbird style Atiri, okay, he might be able to do it. But one of the big, large, whatever guys are pronounced, hurrah. That's good.
They still have big droppings.
Yep.
They'll have the big droppings.
So yeah, if you want to go a raiding, the Voldrach space awaits, but so do all those lost worlds out there too. And so do, not all the Voldrach have stopped raiding into Hawkwood space and elsewhere. Some have even, pushed for even more of it to try to push back the Emperor and all these presumptuous known worlders thinking they're going to take the Voldrach space away.
Right.
Who knows? We might even see the rise of another warlord who becomes king of the Voldrach. Haven't seen one of those since Frolier the Ill-Fated.
And there's certainly some rumblings of unhappiness with the Voldrach for this. So,
yep.
Now, the classic space adventure is the Lost Worlds adventure. The questing knights going out to recover Lost Worlds. And what we've set up in the Noble Armada computer game is sort of a format of you will have a lot of tests before you get to the main planet. Because really, the main inhabited planets are still within that, what is the word? The Goldilocks band. Mm-hmm. That area where we think are best for humans to inhabit. So you will have, theoretically, the ability to go past a number of planets on your way. Now, planets might be on the other side of the solar system at that point, but you will probably have some places where there has been human or sentient activity before you get to the main planet. And I love that about the Lost Worlds adventures. You don't necessarily get straight to the planet unless that's what the GM wants. You have your chance to meet someone on the outer Pluto, dwarf planet, baby planet, move into the asteroid belt, meet folks on the asteroid, and that gets to build up the GM tension of what's really going on at this lost world. Create the mysteries. Is it plague? Is it run by Antimonus? Well, who's actually behind it? Is it really the Ducados?
Right. There are even aliens out there, like the Zago, in I forget which system, one of those lost worlds. These energy beings, they're actually sentient, and if you get them a containment suit, they can interact with you. So there's other strange things out there.
And always one of the fun parts of Fading Suns is that culture clash as you bring in different folks, and GMs get to have a lot of fun with whatever wacky habits, traditions, whatever that the players will be constantly accidentally violating in their clumsy efforts.
Yep.
Chainsaw Gothic, how are the Ducados been falsely accused this time? Phantom of Truth says methane atmosphere shenanigans. Is that a Ganak reference? Are you being anti-Ganak?
Call Me says Zakan. Are you maybe think of the Zago that I just referred to? Let's see which planet. Hold on, I actually have the book next to me here, so let me look it up. Let's see, where were the Lost Worlds? An old book. One of the races was the Zago. Let's see, which system were they in? Sargasso. Used to be called Collier's Landing.
That's right.
And they're out in the gas giants of that place.
Sargasso was a fun system. And again, this is one of those things I look forward to people writing up once we have the content creator platform set up for Fading Suns. All your crazy known worlds with whatever's found on them. The Ducados are never falsely accused. Proof has a problem with being presented.
Mm-hmm.
Good point. Well, actually, I'm going to prove to you just how evil the Hawkwoods are. I'm in the middle of a Fading Suns game right now, and the Hawkwoods have invaded Istakar. So let's see if I can show it to you on the other computer.
Wow, it's a Noble Armada again.
Let's see what we got here.
Oh, they're part of the Fading Suns.
Yep.
Wow. Yep. An oldie.
An oldie, but an awesomey. All right, let's see here. Yeah, look, those blue Hawkwoods, they're special forces, the valiant Al-Malik defending. Check it out. Those evil Hawkwoods. They even brought in the Imperial fleet to bombard the planet. The Imperial fleet took over the electronics in the lab over there. So, that just shows you the evil nature of House Hawkwood. We're going to see all sorts of death and destruction here. Oh, wait a minute. I'm playing House Hawkwood. Oops. I forgot about that.
You are evil, so.
My game, the Hawkwoods invaded Al-Malik territory.
What planet was that?
That was Istakar.
Istakar. Okay. Wow. Bring back something from the market for me.
So, more proof of the evil Hawkwoods. So, all right. Anybody have questions or comments they want to share, or ideas for their own space campaigns they're going to be throwing up there? And it's not just finding the Void Kraken arm. It happens fairly often. So, yeah, it's interesting. One of the things we were doing with Noble Armada, I mean, the space is big, but it's not empty. There is stuff out there. So you get to have a lot of fun with that. There tends to be a lot more of it on a trip for a PC spaceship than Voyager had on its way out. But we can ask Voyager when it returns as Virger what it actually found. So it'll be okay. Oh, and that's right. So, Phantom of Truth. I really tried with that game to wipe out the church and the noble houses to fall on themselves so much that the Merchant League had a chance, but no such luck.
Well.
Yeah. The Merchant League just lost money off of the Havoc. You got to remember, the Merchant League is not really in favor of the Third Republic. No. So they're certainly folks within the faction who are Democrats who
They're
want it to become
accused of it all the time, but the leaders certainly don't want it.
the leaders are very happy with the status quo as is,
Mhm.
and are afraid that if they actually had to have ability, they wouldn't have a chance. So they're much better at screwing each other over and backstabbing than actually programming those
Yep.
think machines.
Far less competition than a republic would cause.
Yeah, they've got their monopolies they wouldn't have had under the Second Republic. So Morton Crimson says Hawkwoods have always been the antagonists in my game. Excellent, as it should be. So,
Poor Hawkwoods.
so I talked about Star Trek earlier. The whole idea of games where the whole purpose is to boldly go where no one's gone before. You're not going where no one's gone before. You're going where no one's gone in a long, long time. That's our main difference. It's very funny. I remember back in the early days of RPGs, Heritage Miniatures put out the first Star Trek role-playing game, which was basically impossible to play, but a lot of fun. But then every space game for a while seemed to have an economic motivation for everything you did. So Traveler, clear example. Everything you did for $1. Space Quest, which I loved, again, it was the same thing. Your main focus was how do you make, well, it was energy. It wasn't money. Energy was the main unit of currency in Space Quest. And this was a repeated motif for game after game of science fiction RPGs that I would play. And so with Fading Suns, we wanted to incorporate that, but we also wanted to incorporate that old boldly go where no one's gone before idea, where you can just go because you want to go. And that's the Questing Knights. Not that the Questing Knights are the new Picards, mind you.
Yeah, they've got hair.
Except for the Gannix, especially the Gannix. So I love that sort of campaign and really push for, well, Bill and I both push for a way to include in Fading Suns. The idea that you're not just going out for money. You are going out there to connect with other sentient beings, mostly humans.
Mm-hmm.
Other sentient beings all over the place. Chainsaw Gothic.
Yeah, I just want to add that even though the Merchant League as a whole won't be pushing for the Republic, there's certainly no reason player characters can't be. In fact, we expect that if there is any kind of move towards the Third Republic, it's going to come from the ground up through those plucky player character types.
Battling against the powers that be.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. Phantom of Truth says it's the usual problem of I don't like how things are governed and don't want to be the one to govern. Yep, constant issue. Mm-hmm. Everyone's got to be involved in their local politics, no matter how much you don't want to be. Doesn't mean you have to run. You just got to stay aware. And Chainsaw Gothic, back when people used to homebrew space board games where you bought and sold stuff on different worlds. Yeah, a few of those.
Buy and sell big. If you're really into the big buy and sell, you can always play our old Merchant Prince,
That's
Machiavelli
right.
the Prince game, and just pretend you're going from world to world instead of from city to city along coasts.
And actually, that brings up another fun point, because in Merchant Prince, the main way you made money, much like Sid Meier's classic Railroad Tycoon, was not the trading that was inherent in it. The trading was what you started doing when it seemed most fun, but the way you really made money in Merchant Prince was you would cause the bubonic plague to start hitting cities, and you'd wait, and people would buy whatever for anything because they were about to die. Those darn pandemics driving up prices. And then you'd send in your ships of stuff. Some of them would die, but you'd make huge amounts of money. Then you would buy yourself senators in the Venetian Senate and give yourself plum government positions with lots of money to your followers who had no business being in government. And then you would buy yourself cardinals in the College of Cardinals, assassinate the Pope, get yourself elected Pope, and then the real money would roll in. And you can certainly do that in Fading Suns too. There are plagues. You get the plague going on a planet and then land to sell, you're probably going to make a ton.
Just realize it's the fantasy game. It's not like that in the real world at all. Not a bit. Could never happen here.
So that's very applicable to your Fading Suns game as well. Sid Meier's with Railroad Tycoon. I mean, he had this great game about railroads, but the real way you made money was stock manipulation. How you manipulated the stock of your railroad company and the other players' railroad companies. And loved how he implemented that. Great part of the game. And it was very true to the Vanderbilts and others of the railroad era. Their real money came from how badly they messed up all the other people in the stock market. Thus, we now have stock market regulations.
Unless your game stonks in space, as Chainsaw Gothic just wrote.
Yep. Real reason the game stopped. But Phantom of Truth says the economics of a galaxy-spanning entity almost guarantee a ship wanting cargo can get it. Force scarcity should have both a reason to exist and a solution.
Or resolution, yes.
And that's always interesting because we've had plagues brought from other places. So, I mean, you look at the Irish potato famine, they look at the reasons for that. How did the virus get there? These can spread pretty obnoxiously through one solar system and through the entire known worlds relatively quickly. So, yeah, there can suddenly be an issue. Now, there is a great deal of seed diversity at this point, ecosystem diversity in the known worlds at this stage. Second Republic, a little bit less so, despite the massive number of more ships. There's more standardization of what made the biggest profit. So you would hope that potato blight would not necessarily impact all the planets, but somebody did something genetically modified. Who knows? Maybe the Vow have that ability. We have no idea what strengths the Vow have. And if someone were to steal something from a Vow lab, uh-oh. And that was the one group we hadn't talked about yet in your space campaign. What happens when you run into the Vow? They are out there in space. That's one thing we don't often talk about. The known worlders believe that there are Vow spies everywhere, but we just can't find them because of their advanced technology. Is that just paranoia, or is that the truth? What happens when you uncover an Anunnaki and discover that their Vow they're studying it too? An Anunnaki relic, and their Vow they're studying it too. What happens?
Yeah, or that the patron who hired you to go after the relic is really a Vow.
Yeah,
you never know. They could be behind everything. Male pattern baldness included.
So yeah, space campaigns are a great way to incorporate the Vow in all sorts of ways. And of course, for PCs to uncover that crazy piece of Vow technology that you want them to have fun with for a little while. So, great additions to the system. All right, I think those are my main high points for space campaigns that I wanted to share. What about you, Bill?
Geez, I'm not sure. I think we've used up most of the ideas that I can think of at the moment. Phantom of Truth adds, the Vow have a fantastic cultural firewall. They do indeed. Very hard to penetrate. And certainly when individual players do, it's not the same thing as bringing in mass communication and such. So, yeah, it is a firewall. But you, the GM, can do all sorts of things with that.
The Imperial Eye will be very interested in anything having to do with the Vow. Yep. Very interested. Of course, the Vow are behind it anyway.
Yeah.
They make people think that it's an ancient think machine. AI behind it all. Really, it's the Vow who are behind the Imperial Eye. That's how they spy.
All we know, Emperor Alexis is a Vow who's been modified to look like a human.
He's a clone of a Vow.
Oh, okay.
So
a little simpler. Oh, Chainsaw Gothic asks, hey, is there another Ulysses online convention coming up? And yes, there is. There's going to be monthly conventions. And maybe Robert can throw up the link for that up there. I don't have it handy myself, but let you know what's happening. And I believe they talked about it earlier today on Ulysses Worlds. You can certainly go up to the Ulysses site and find forums for signing up to run games there too. Chainsaw Gothic again. I disavow any knowledge of that clone. Oh well. Check the Ulysses site for info on that con, and on the Discord also. Get that up there.
Yeah, if you are not in the Discord, make sure you reach out to Ulysses to get in there. Nice active community.
Yep. We answer questions regularly up there, and obviously on Facebook too. All that. Great. Cool.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us again.
Yeah, we'll cut out a little early today. There it is. The Ulysses Discord. Thanks, Robert. Robert, can you throw up the convention link also for this month's convention or forum for anybody who wants to run a game up there?
Thanks for joining us, Chainsaw Gothic, and everyone else. There we go.
All right.
Absolutely. Someone go ahead and run some more Fading Suns.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So a pleasure as always. We'll talk to you in early March. Cheers, cheers.
Just remember, it's cold out in space. Dress warmly. Bye, guys.